Okay. And do we have anybody? Let's see. We have. And we have a couple of people. Okay. All right. That's good. Right. And I thought what I'd do today, there's a lot in the world that is going on. And I picked this thing out, well, one quote from O Sensei, okay? And we also have on my phone one quote from Superman. And it's interesting that they're very similar. Not word for word, but in our culture, things like superheroes, well, comics have actually become a mythology. And the first one was Superman, 1938. And I've always thought, Nado Sensei just thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But Sensei's Kototama, you have sounds that have power, have meaning, have vitalness. And so I was talking to him about, for example, Superman, Su, the sound Su in Kototama, Aikido, at least Kototama, is very important. And the Shinto storm god, also the god of strength, was Susano. And so it's ironic that probably our best known superhero is Superman. Now we also have Supergirl. Currently Supergirl's on TV. Superman's taking a little hiatus right now from main culture. But we'll start with O Sensei. And this is taken in a very troubled, he's referring to a very troubled time, which was World War II. The secret of Bu, meaning martial, has no forms. The heart must be free, and ki must be fully charged. So Bu is martial, okay? In other words, you can think military, police, both of which O Sensei taught in that prior to World War II era. Now he went from basically teaching a very small group, select group of people in Ayabe for this, basically what was a religious cult, Yomoto religion under Kikuchi Sensei, to going to Tokyo and teaching military and police. So he had a pretty good sense of Bu, and just going from, it'd be the equivalent of, one of us playing basketball at the YMCA, and all of a sudden you go to the NBA, and all of a sudden you're an all-star. It's quite a shift of venue. Okay, but let's go on. So he says the heart must be free, and ki must be fully charged. And one of the things right there is it's very easy to drift into a philosophy around things like love and peace. And he's saying, Bu is not about being heavy-handed. So the heart must be free, but your ki must be fully charged. And so we're talking about peaceful demonstration. In some sense, one might look at it this way: martial arts, especially at that time, what's really seen is being connected to things like police and military. So there were war arts. Bu, Jutsu, Budo, Buge. In some sense, what it evolved into through him was a protest art. That martial arts are really about love and peace and unity, not about my side can beat your side and therefore it's the true side. he was really talking about the world as one family. But he says your ki must be fully charged. It's not just the philosophy, not just the words. Okay? And so we go on. All of this was imparted to me by the deity Sadhu Taiko on December 16th, 1942, between 2 and 3 in the morning. Okay? All of the gods in Japan gathered and brought Aikido truly into life, fostering universal spirit and what he calls Shochikubai swordsmanship. That was his understanding of a sword. But triangle, circle, square, iku musubi, karu musubi, kamatsume musubi, the three fundamentals. There's 1, 4, and then there's 3. Okay? And much of this is not making much sense, is it? The double-edged sword of heaven and earth was manifest. That sword symbolizes the spiritual movement that works to purge the world of filth and corruption. So, I mean, these are very difficult times. We appear to be fighting, or we have a battle or an issue with this or that. But what he's really talking about is filth and corruption. And a lot of that, where is that? Well, the original consciousness that we're all connected to come out of, the original spirit, the original soul, the one, okay? Here we are as an aspect of it in this material world, with our I, basically the connection to that here. And this is such a crazy world, and we're constantly battling filth and corruption. And a lot of that is just because we are in this particular location. Nado Sensei's theme on Friday night was what he called rooms or stations. We're in the world of the I. In a lot of the soul's attributes, we're talking about things like love, beauty, true power, intelligence. In this world, they can get so twisted. And so we're kind of in this I twist in this room. And so things like war, injustice, they're rampant right now. And we think, oh, we've gotten better. But what you find is a lot of times things that are pushed under the rug are what you trip over. And right now, as a country and as a race, we are finding out certain things. We're finding out that the people in power, not all of them, but certain ones are into it for self-glorification and self-interest. And when they're expected to lead, well, what you're getting is no leadership. And that oftentimes, things like demonstrations can turn into profiteering, vandalism. And we wonder where this stuff came from. But it's always been there. And there's so much energy moving now, the coronavirus, economic downturn, depression, now the political and social demonstrations around the death of George Floyd. Everything has been like a forest that's all dried out. And all it takes is for somebody to drop a lighted cigarette. The whole thing goes up in flames. So that's where we are. Now, one cigarette falling is not going to do that. There's a certain number of things that have to exist for that raging fire to be here. And we're right in the middle of it. And, and it's interesting that this is bringing people together. And on the other hand, this is a time of social isolation and coronavirus. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going on right now. And so one of the things that we addressed last time, and I've been sort of slow, but I'll see about putting that online, was the role of Aikido in all this. Okay. And it's a very important one. And I think what I tried to bring out last time was Aikido is an activity to get you back to yourself as a soul, as an original consciousness. And let's just say the original consciousness has various attributes or powers, one of which is love. Not the idea or philosophy of love, but love. Power. Beauty, purity, whatever you want to call it. And intelligence. And you have all of that in this I climate. And so it's very easy in this tumultuous time to, and so, Sensei think, heart must be free, not locked into this. So yeah, I have my judgments about what's going on right now. But to get locked into them, you start to play the game with certain people. And you can't beat hate with hate. So going back to the original of ourselves. And in this I, power gets twisted. Intelligence gets twisted. And so we run around very confused in these times as an I. But the training to get us back to the more original of ourselves, and the way Sensei put it, the heart is free. In other words, we're not locked into judgments. There's a sense where we have the capacity to see everybody as one family. But right now, it's a very dysfunctional family. And there's potential for a lot of stuff that people right now just want to act out. And the people that want to act out positively, the peaceful demonstrators, there's a lot of other activity going on. So let's continue on. Okay, the double-edged sword of heaven and earth was manifest. And the sword symbolized the spiritual movement that works to purge the world of filth and corruption. To accomplish this, first, that terrible war had to end. He's talking about World War II. This was 1942, so early in that war. I was entrusted with a tremendous task. The gods instructed me to construct 36 mat Aiki Jinja, which is an Aiki shrine in Iwama. Then the atomic bombs fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the emperor called an end to the war. Since then, Japan has been tied together by Aiki. The true Buddha of the gods will be restored. Within the powerful name of Ame no Muraku no Kuki Samuhara Ryuho, all the techniques are contained. It is in your blood. As for me, I was an incarnation of a deity, Izu no Me no Mikoto, the spirit of reformation and renewal. And that's, I mean, most people, what is that about? Well, he's saying we must be filled with ki, and the heart must be free. And he goes into all these names of deities that most people might, because they're parts of folklore and fairy tales, that they, why in the world are they really talking about this and that and this and that? You know, why does he use that? But we'll go on one more, then we'll try to tie it as best I can. If you don't put this into practice, nothing will be accomplished. Fortunately, we have gathered together an enthusiastic group of people who train hard. And this is, next part's important. True power resides within the people. namely Takehaya Susano. The power of the human race is derived from the function of the divine Kusanagi sword. Well, he's referring again to Susanoo no Mikoto. But he also is saying the real power is with people. Susanoo killed a dragon. Or he got the dragon drunk enough, it wasn't doing anything destructive. Can't remember which. But he found within the dragon's tail a tsurugi, a sword, not an ordinary sword, a magical sword. And that's supposed to be one of the three treasures of Shinto, the sword, the mirror, the jewel. Okay. All the gods work together in Aikido. I am simply one who indicates the way. I do not teach anything. I simply listen to the gods, use the spirit to activate matter. If you get caught up on form, you will never be able to fly like lightning and create sparks. All power is derived from ki and is linked to emptiness. Don't shut yourself in a box. Ki brought the physical universe into being, and you must realize this in your soul. Learn about the freedom of ki, learn how ki flows. Ideally, morning and evening, calm the spirit before the divine for an hour each session. Learn about the all-powerful seed syllable soup. And wow. Well, so that's O-sensei. And I thought I'd share this, if I can find it and open it. And I mentioned Superman earlier. You know, I don't know, comic books, Superman, Batman, they were kind of my first comic book heroes. And then as I got a little older, I kind of jumped into the Marvel universe with Spider-Man and Thor and that group. But they were still comics. Okay, nope. Go back here. Oh, come on. Okay. More. And something that this is an article about DC Comics, which publishes Superman. And one thing, the last person to play Superman, in theory, he's supposed to be Superman again, which was in doubt for a while, was Henry Cavill. And one thing he said, it was on Facebook, and I have it saved somewhere, but I'm not going to dig it up. It says, I believe in the spirit of Superman. So is there a man out there that flies and wears a cape? But the spirit of. So since he's talking about all these gods and goddesses and this and that, and your spirit must be free, and you must be filled with ki, and then he goes into the whole thing about how all power rests with the people. And part of Superman is what would happen if we all joined. We would have incredible power. And things like, it's not that we would fight injustice, but all of a sudden there would be no injustice if we had a unity, not as a cult, but as a people, connected to each other through what he called Aikido. And what does Aikido do? It takes you back to the original source of Bu, which is the love in that original series of attributes. Love holds everything together. Okay? And right now that love is being tested. The Aikido is going through a period of There's a lot of turbulence at the level of the world of the I. But this is what Superman was quoted as saying. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us. And on my soul, I swear, until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice becomes the reality we all share, I'll never stop fighting, ever. And it looks like, I'm going to beat up all the supervillains and stop all crime, extinguish evil. But one of the things that he's possibly saying there is the old battle in the comics, truth, justice, and the American way. Well, Superman represents the power of the people, just like Susano does. He's pretty much a figment of our imagination. We watch him on the TV screen or the big screen theaters, or we read him on the pages of comics, or we read about him in print. But let's just say that he's the power of the people. In a sense, his dream about the world as one family. Well, Aiki is that binding force, Boo and love at the origin of things. As soul comes into being, gifted with power, is balanced by love. Intelligence, but it's balanced by beauty or purity, harmony. All of this is what we came out of. And so going back to the source of Boo, what did the gods instruct Sensei to do? Build a shrine, an Aiki shrine. And so my take, each of us is a potential shrine. The shrine Sensei wanted us to build is the Aiki shrine here. And that's not going to necessarily by itself stop what's going on out there. But it'll deepen our own beingness to, in some sense, in an Aiki way, be a part of what's going on. So kind of within that, I mean, that was something that struck me today, that we are at a crossroads. And Aikido, if it's just something that you go to, just sort of, I don't know, you meet your friends and you learn about stuff and you train, that's good. But given the situation with closure of Aikido schools, and just about everything else right now, the actual sense of what the Aikido is, this is as tragic as a lot of this is. It's a chance to take our perspective of what we're doing, and that is to build that shrine inside each of us. And, the shrine itself is something that exists, but we are in this world of this room or station called the I, with this internal dialogue going on and all this movement happening. There are other rooms, and as we go from room to room, we are on a journey to go back to our more true nature. And the room itself that we're in becomes that shrine as we get clearer, more original with ourselves. So what can we do? Well, we're trying at some point with the broadcasts, which is no substitute for going to the dojo, but to really, in some sense, sometimes running a school or teaching classes or getting too caught up in just certain things, which are all good. We may miss what the real message of it is. So anyway, we're going to go into the next room and will we do this? Yes, we will. Okay, here we are. All right, I'm gonna go back here. Yeah, we're just about where we should be. And one of the things that's really hard right now is there's a lot of energy moving. And due to social isolation, unless you have your own gym or your own built-in dojo, it's real difficult not to feel kind of locked up. Okay? So what I thought we'd do, because we've been working on this lately, is just go into some work you can do on your own. Okay? Looking around, I mean, you don't have to have one of these. If you have a staff or a short staff, you can do that, but please be careful. I don't want to smash that. All right. Warming up. Toes, heels together. Toes straight up. And remember right here, we're exaggerating. To do this, you got to release. You keep the grip in your fingers. You must release your wrists and your shoulders to actually do that. And down. Exaggerating, this goes down somewhere near the ankles. Yeah. So that's a stretching, warming up motion. Okay, good. And what I've been doing is a simple cut. Okay? Generally, you're cutting a little bit more there, but just in terms of Aikido. Body, not set. Remember, since that your heart has to be free. When I'm locked in this form, my heart's not free. Wada Sensei also said, but filled with ki. So when I'm kind of just sort of drifting, and filled with ki is not that you put ki in your body, you just sort of, as the eye clears out, ki can fill the body. We're just swinging. And what we're going to do, we're just going to swing. And I'm not going to swing for any number of times or for this amount of time. But I'd like you to swing with me and try to match my rhythm. Okay. So, what I'd like you to do, and do this comfortably, sit. Sometimes we talk about that place called one-pointed focus, or calm. Thinking about it, it's not there. If you're looking for one point, it's not there. But for me, the sword swinging, when I'm doing it that way, gets me out of that room of the eye. And for the swinging, it's not so much, am I doing it right? How well am I doing? How many should I do? How long should I swing? When you swing, you swing. When you sit, you sit. And one thing that is important is there's a tremendous amount of energy that this world situation generates. And to some degree, you got to do something with it. Oh, since it was instructed, build a 36 mat Aikido shrine. Now, you can go out there and actually build some, but you're also in the act of swinging, in the act of sitting. You are building for Converse, they're getting in touch with that shrine that's inside you. And to get past being swept up in this current world situation. Not to do this to get away from it. If you just drift with it, it will bounce around. That's what I've been doing, swinging and then sitting. See, if you're looking for something, I'm looking for calm. Calm sort of is. And my thoughts are still going on, but I'm in a different location. If I focus on it, all of a sudden I'm back to the room of that eye. So how long should I sit? What should I do when I sit? Sometimes just sitting. But if I had to give this place a name, I'd call it one-pointed focus, or another name for it I have is just called calm. It's not so much I am calm, as much as this room is calm. So when self relocates to this room as opposed to the I room, there's calm. And this is the type of calm that's filled with ki. What Sensei said, heart must be free, but you're filled with ki. Things like courage, bravery, they come along this way. Not when we've been being motivated, pushed, and tortured, or made angry, or in the heat, which is the world of the eye. How long do you sit? You sit until you swing. Fellas. Going back here. The body is not in a set position. The protesters and the police ideally are working for the same thing, which is justice. But we have to, with certain people are trying to create oppositional sides. There's a lot of activity going on, some of which is really unfortunate and violent. But really, both sides stand. So, from here, see, it's not how many times you swing, how long you swing. When you're in that state, that's what you do. Okay? And just going back to the pattern. All that activity, sit. Along, what should we do? How do we sit? Am I doing it proper? That's the eye. That's the eye road. One thing I noticed, for example, is that's very deceptive. Because I'm getting kind of a, not an elevated, but my heart's going this way. There's very few things you can do right. You can go out for a walk or something. You find a safe place and just swing. When you do that for a bit, you sit. See, what's interesting is in the world of the eye, we're going to have different. We're going to have your Republicans and your Democrats. We're going to have your never Trumpers and your ever Trumpers. It's just the way it works in that way. Doesn't mean the differences go away here, but there's commonality. Ano Sensei and Toshima Sensei were very different people, but they could hang out here together. when I was training with him, Dojima Sensei and I were on very different levels, but we could just crack each other up. And the thing could be very serious. Okay, so there was a sense where he was showing me how to hang out. If you have to give support to something or someone, give it from here. If you're confused, settle, find this place. If I act on my confusion, the worst thing is where you get a weak leader, and all of a sudden he has to act out, do something to prove he's strong, and he makes things worse. I hope it don't get there. So be very easy here. This is where your attributes hang out. This is where your intelligence is. This is where your imagination. Not so much the I type of love, but the sort of love your passion is. Power. This is a very powerful place. Somebody who hangs out here has power. Not necessarily power over, but power. There's a beauty here. If you're thinking about those things, you're not in that place of one-pointed focus. Those are just something you have when you're sitting here, as best I can tell at this point. See, if everybody could sort of, in this world, we would not necessarily be the same. In the Star Trek Next Generation series and some of the later Star Trek series, there's what's called the Borg. They're just a collective. A collective. Boom. And if you join the Borg, you become one of the collective. That's not what O-Sensei meant. That we would have our I differences, but we would be able to communicate with each other from here. And communication, that you treat each other with respect, with love. And without those two things, power becomes corruption. And intelligence can be warped and serve interests it doesn't want to serve. Albert Einstein said that if he'd known what the Manhattan Project was, he never would have been part of it. But the government kept in the dark to use it. Intelligence, until it's connected to this place, can serve evil ends even when you're not evil. And that's quite a chore, quite a mission. But that was, as far as I can tell, somewhat O-Sensei's mission. His divine mission was to come here. All these are energies. And what Superman says, our dreams motivate us. We won't really solve the world's problems unless we get in touch, with our deeper, truer selves. And Superman kind of represents the power of the people. It doesn't represent one individual that's supremely gifted that wants to rule the world. Superman wants to represent the people. One time, I was with a couple of African-American musicians in the Wada area at the dojo, and we were talking about the current political climate. And I said, I don't know whether or not I believe in America anymore, but I still believe in the spirit of Captain America. That which the nation stands for, at its origin, its beginning. And we're seeing where that can be twisted or used. So again, power rests with us. And if we follow what O-Sensei said, through a lot of his imagery, which is very difficult, those were his dreams. It was his deeper self, the actual kami. Those things were energies that were coming up from his unconscious, what Carl Jung would call archetypes. But he wasn't just a psychologist. He embodied those, and he was trying to show us through the Aikido what we could do. And Superman is a tricky character because in some sense, it's almost like, are we supposed to put a cape on and fly? He's showing us the strength of the power of the people of which we are part. That together we are super. Or, in no sensei sense, as we take all the fragmentation of the I, shift into some of the deeper, more original rooms, where it's more self on its way to its true self. All that conflict starts to deepen out. And yes, that still exists, and we're in it. But we're, in some sense, we are building the shrine inside. And the way our sensei put it, he says, I'm supposed to teach this, but all I really am doing is just instructing you about what these energies are telling me. And if there's one person, that's fine. Okay. Those of you that are tuning in, at least on the live broadcast, thank you. I think we get more action on YouTube. But, not a great big group, but on the other hand, it's a very important group. Anyway, what we're going to do, we are going to shift here. Anybody with a question? I know there's a kind of more of a, I'm not exactly sure what you would call it, but I find a lot of it just swinging the sword to be somewhat cathartic. Okay. It's just, yes?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Sure.
At the start of class today, I was about as stressed as I've been, like as long as I can remember. Not just after 2 months of lockdown and then a week of everything that's been happening in the world.
Oh yeah.
Country. And at this point, after 2 rounds of swinging and 2 rounds of sitting, I am calm. So
Yeah.
I just acknowledge that and thank you for leading us through that.
Well, you know, one of the things about that is that, you know, you could argue, you know, that, you know, you try to do the sword, you know, I'm going to work out. No, you swing to swing, you know. It's kind of a misogi. If you swing the sword because you have an idea of misogi, it also throws it out. That in a lot of ways, what O-sensei was talking about, you go to the dojo and train, you're supposed to find that calm. It's not, you know, just exercise, although you'll get some exercise. I find, you know, when I swing, I'm diabetic, but, you know, I'll take a couple of portions of the day and I'll swing and I'll sit and I'll swing. It's not, you know, but when I sit, it's like my heartbeat's going da 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 da, which means I'm burning off blood sugar. I don't do this to burn the blood sugar off, but there's so much going on that, you know, if I just, then I'm going to act out some way. You know, I'm going to do something I regret because the eye just keeps bouncing around in that room right now. There's a tremendous amount of energy moving now. And this kind of deepens me, puts me into another room. And the name of that room is calm. I'm not denying the world. I'm not saying this is going to solve what's going on out there, but I'm solving the me that's caught up in that I room, going crazy from a couple of months of social isolation and no Aikido. You know, see what I mean? At least, you know, so there is Aikido, because in some sense, I think that's what O-sensei was saying the purpose of the training was. So thank you. Calm. Anybody else? Not anything you have to do, but if you have a practice, for example, doesn't mean you stop practicing because all of a sudden all the classes are online. But I know that, you know, when I was a lot younger, your training style changes as your body ages. But when I was training, that's kind of what it felt like. You didn't know how long it was going to go. I remember one time, Hikizuchi Sensei used to teach a class sometimes. He'd go into his office. You know, this was in the winter when it was really cold, right? So I know he had a heater in there. The rest of us were on the mat. And I was training with Yanase Sensei. And it was a simple move. You know, you go grab his shoulder and he just comes straight at you. All right, and then you have to get up and grab his shoulder on the other side and he comes straight at you. And then it's a change. It's my turn to have him come at me. All right. And, you know, his center is very deep, so I'm going on, and then all of a sudden it's my turn to come up again, and wham, wham, you know. But there was an area when you're training that way where you're not training for any reason other than to be there. And there's a type of peace in that. And I was thinking, my first thought was, holy crap, because Hikizuchi Sensei does the technique and he just goes into his office, which means I'm not going to see him. And I'm working with Yanase Sensei, who's sending these beams of energy at me. And I got to get up and I got another beam. And then I've got to deal with him and try to get my beam out, you know. And I was thinking, this is, you know, that was my conscious I mind. But on the other hand, there was a type of joy. It's very difficult to articulate. But especially, you know, within all this isolation, this social distancing, you know, we have a tremendous amount of energy, and to put that into something. So for me, swinging and sitting gets me to that room, Cliff, you were mentioning. Anybody else with a comment or anything? No?
I guess since it's Bonnie,
Yes.
one thing with the swinging, I initially was trying to think about doing this, then of course stopped because I kind of got into the zone today. But
Yeah.
your description of dropping a weight at the end of a chain, conversation came up about negative and positive G's when flying or on a roller coaster. And as a visual for me, you know, going down or up a roller coaster suddenly had a really good effect on the imagination, helping the flow with the spine and just letting the sword drop. But for today, definitely felt a much greater sense of calm and centeredness. I think being out in nature helped. Got some nice wind going on out here.
Well, since they trained a lot in nature, some of the stories said that, you know, he actually would go out into the forest or the mountains, and then all of a sudden, you know, these legendary beings, these mythological beings, folklore being called the Tengu, would come out. And he would train sword to sword with the Tengu. And that was stuff he did in nature. So that was, nature is a very good teacher. Anybody else? Or okay. But that part of it, if you, all you have to do is pick up a sword and swing. And sit. And swing some more and sit some more. You'll find that each time I do that, I tend to find a deeper room. I just remember, Tojiba Sensei teaching that cut, and I kind of had this thought that, you can travel the whole universe in that cut. And that was a cut he learned from watching O Sensei cut. And I remember reading what O Sensei said. He said the whole universe, past, present, future, is in one sword cut. And so, so what did you do? Well, I just went through this up, down of the sword. What happened? Well, I got a workout and my hands started to hurt, so I quit. Well, that's okay. If you're in physical discomfort from the swinging, don't guts it out. Rest, go back to it. See, if you get just find that space, and then see, more important almost than the cut is when you sit, you realize that the sword cut is taking you to a different room. And then instead of trying to figure out the room, you soak. Like the room is a space. As I said, calm is a very good description of it. But it's a very focused calm. It's very adaptable at the same time. And so as you swing, you sit. Likewise, after you set, the cut. Boom, go back to that cut. Sadaharu-o basically worked on one thing, standing on one leg and swinging a baseball bat. But O Sensei told him, learn to wait. There's another word. Don't be out there too busy in the world of the eye. Find a deeper room. And for O, what O Sensei told him was that room was a waiting room. So after a while, he hit all those home runs. All he was doing was learning to wait. And he began to realize that the most active thing he did was waiting. So, his room had a different name. You got to find, Cliff's was a very good one, calm. I oftentimes use the term one-pointed focus. But if you start to focus on one point, you're not in one-pointed focus. It's a crazy sort of thing. Or nature. Nature can take you out of your eye. All right. Okay, I've got a couple of things to do, so we're going to kind of end it with this today. But thank you for hanging with me. If you feel like it, start getting on a swinging program, and just sit with the swinging. Sometimes I just sit, but what I kind of find is instead of just thinking, well, I got to exercise, get my blood sugar down. It turns out that swinging the sword is a great way for me of lowering the blood sugar, but I don't swing the sword to lower the blood sugar or get a workout. I swing the sword because it's a good complement to the sitting. And the sitting gets me in touch with that place that O Sensei called Nen, N-E-N. And, my description of that is a one-pointed focus. His description earlier, heart is free, filled with ki. That's Nen. That's kind of what those rooms vibe like. And therefore, when you're in those rooms, the sword cut is kind of like the Starship Enterprise. It's a vehicle. There are other ones. We could go back and forth. This can also do something. But if you kind of do this for exercise or because it's a ritual, you miss it. Okay, so some of you want to play around with that. We can touch base on it a little bit. I've got a couple things to do this afternoon. So what I'm going to do is thank you all for being here. Okay. And we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you, David, for organizing. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, everyone. Bye.